Thanks for joining us for Khari Free at Last on Bounce23 TV. I'm Khari Enaharo. And joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host Earth Jallow, the Reverend John Coates, and Donella Martin-Braddix. On this edition of Khari Free at Last, we will cover 4 critical issues impacting the quality of life of African Americans. In our first segment, are African Americans being imaged as terrorists? The blaming of outside agitators for the protest problems in Ferguson, Missouri, and the African-American Douglas MacArthur McCain, who is linked to the ISIS terror, raises questions about African-Americans being imaged as the new face of Islamic terror. Reverend John Coates, all of a sudden now it looks like because a lot of black folk are into Islam, you know, be it the Nation of Islam or the other Orthodox Islam, all of a sudden now it's subtly being linked that we are the part of ISIS. You know, you got ISIS dressed in black, look like some corporation designed them, dressed in black, so you think of all black when you see them, and then here comes one of the first guys that gets killed in Syria is a black man, and all of a sudden they're coming to Chicago. What's going on with this?
ISIS, ISIR, whatever the...
and then ISIS is associated with ancient Egypt.
Exactly,
so.
we've heard, in the cartoon that used to come on when I was 5 or 6 years old, you know, look, that wasn't the African Americans. The first thing the media had to do, rather, is to make the face of terrorism black.
Why?
And we saw because we saw a transition coming. Now we know what was in the game plan. When we saw the Nigerian terrorists, Okobertan or Bakaratan or Bakaran,
the guy that had the bomb in his drawers. Is that who you're talking about?
No, the guy that kidnapped the girls.
Oh yeah, Boko Haram. Yes.
Rin Tin Tin.
Yeah.
And they showed his black face, so they had to put a black face on Al Qaeda-oriented type terrorism, and now we hear about...
Are they recruiting black people?
Well, yeah, they're recruiting...
Wait a minute, are black people more loyal to Islam?
This is who they're recruiting. They're recruiting white people from Germany and from England and from France. Those are who the majority of their terrorist recruit are.
So why put a black face on it? Why put a black face on it, Donella?
Well, why not?
Well, it doesn't answer the question. Why?
Well, because I think it is very scary when you look at how the numbers of black men who are, you know, attracted to Islam, and so there's got to be a legitimate reason to track their activities.
Why is it scary? Because they're attracted to Islam is a legitimate religion. What are you talking about?
Well, America does not like Islam. They're afraid of the religion, so there's got to be a legitimate way to track these young men's activities.
Or are they more afraid of black men and not really the religion of Islam?
No, the religion has been...
No, she said that it's scary that black men are being attracted to Islam. Is that true, Earth?
Black men and black people have been attracted to Islam for eons. That has nothing to do with it. What it has to do with is it has to put a black face on terrorism so that they can be free to continue to shoot us down in the streets.
But not just that, but they have to have a reason to have surveillance on these young black men who are vulnerable and lost, and they are susceptible to being recruited by these groups.
Well, the National Security Agency came out. So are you saying the National Security Agency is watching everybody? So are you saying, wait a minute, are you saying that black men shouldn't go to Islam?
You know what? I think black men should go to wherever they're attracted to go to. That's not the point.
Stop dancing like James Brown.
You know, I don't care. You know I'm not religious, Khari. You know I'm not religious.
But you said it's...
You know what I have a problem with? We're going to get to it. I have a problem with black people going to any religion that's not their own people. You're going to Islam when you were enslaved by the Arabs. You're going to Christianity when you were enslaved by the Europeans. So yes, I have a problem with it personally.
Reverend Coates, jump in here. Is that true? Reverend Coates, let me hear from you.
I don't know.
Really want to know.
I don't know what she's talking about. When Kunta Kinte came over here, he was talking about Assalamu alaikum. Okay, he's from West Africa. They were Muslims. Okay.
How did they become Muslims?
They became because they was converted into Islam.
They were enslaved.
But they were converted. No, all of them were not enslaved.
Wait a minute, Reverend Coates. The so-called Arabs ran the slave trade for 1,000 years.
I know
so she's got something there.
They were engaged in the slave trade.
So why would you convert to a religion that your slave master has?
Well, because
that's two for you.
No, we convert to religion because of the truth of the oneness of God. That's why we convert to it.
So because we relate religion for that.
Religion is okay. What does religion?
Well,
what does religion mean? The word religion means
something to do.
That means a practice. Actually, do something. It is a practice. So therefore, you're saying that black people should not enter into any form of a discipline.
Nope.
Be it if that discipline is through Christianity or Islam.
Not be with Islam.
Then you have no guidance.
She's saying black
no guidance, and then you have people
she's saying black folks should not be with Islam because it gives them a terroristic perception. That's what you're saying, am I right?
Not exactly, Khari. You have a way of twisting my words, but that's okay. I will rely on the viewers to make their decision about what I actually said.
Is that what you heard?
Well, that's not quite what I heard, but
Thank
That's
you.
what I heard.
Thank you.
Anyway, that's what I heard. I heard she was saying that you should not be an Islamic person because you're afraid that it might be perceived as being terroristic. All right, truth versus lies in Ferguson. Up next on Khari, free at last on Bounce23 TV. Welcome back to Khari, free at last. I'm Khari Enaharo. Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host Jallow, the Reverend John Coates, and Donella Martin-Braddix. All right, in our second segment, we want to know the truth about the events in Ferguson, Missouri. Did African Americans loot and burn stores in their own community? Did they throw Molotov cocktails and fire guns at police? Did Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson attempt to build or destroy the black movement in Ferguson? Jallow, you were just there.
Yes.
What is the truth?
The truth of the matter is they are organized, they are strategically moving, and they're ready to go. No, they did not.
Did Al and Jesse come there and try to destroy a movement?
Yes,
Truth.
they did. Yes, they did.
Oh, wait a
They
minute.
did.
What's your evidence?
Because they were like, calm down, everybody, nonviolence, blah, blah, blah. But instead of telling the people who have been victimized for years to calm down, why don't you tell the people who are doing the shooting to calm down? The people who are doing the beating to calm down. Those are the ones you need to be talking to. Don't tell the people who are angry and upset about years of abuse to calm down. How you gonna quell that?
So you're saying then that somebody shouldn't have come in and acted responsibly, because if those people would have just looted and then been
two preachers acting responsibly.
She is suggesting that the people in their anger, in their frustration, should have just exploded. And the only thing that would have happened if the people would have exploded, we would have seen those military vehicles and weapons put to use against your people. And then you would have a bunch of dead black people because Jallow thinks that they have the right to just explode.
Oh, my goodness.
And responsible leadership comes in and says, no, you calm down because you're not ready to deal with that.
Responsible leadership? Responsible leadership?
Responsible.
We know that one of them is definitely working for the CIA.
Sure he is.
And I don't call that responsible leadership.
No, but somebody
Let me tell you something while you think you're talking and you know something you don't. When I was on the ground there, those young folks are upset. They weren't looting and burning their own buildings. They strategically took out the ones that were non-black owned, okay? And the people who...
You talking about owned by who?
Owned by others.
Are you
condoning that? Are you condoning that type of behavior?
What I'm condoning...
That I know what I'm talking about, whether it's legal or not.
What I'm condoning is the anger. You have a right to be angry when you have been beaten. There was a young woman I spoke to.
But are you condoning looting and rioting?
I'm not condoning anything. What I'm saying is...
Actually, they weren't rioting. They were rebelling against...
They were not rioting.
They were rebelling against injustice.
It's a big difference.
Yeah.
Okay, my question is for you, Earth, when you say that they strategically, pinpointed the non-black-owned businesses. What exactly are you saying happened?
What I'm saying happened is they destroyed the businesses that were not black-owned in their neighborhood. And the ones...
Should they have done that, Earth?
Wait a minute. The ones that were treating them with respect and that they got along with and didn't come in and exploit the neighborhood, they left alone.
Well, see, Earth, I personally have a problem with that. I have a problem with someone feeling like they have the right to destroy someone's business based upon their race.
I tell you what.
That makes us no better than our enemies.
Let me tell you something.
That's the Idi Amin in her.
When you have been just overwhelmingly just victimized, 14-year-old boy beaten almost into a coma. He wasn't doing the right thing, but why not just arrest him? Why almost take his life? Why shoot an unarmed 18-year-old young man 10 times? Why shoot at him 10 times? So this has been going on. This has been going on for a long time, and these people are upset, they are frustrated, and they are ready to move, and it is time for us to move. The only people playing is black folks. But ain't nobody else playing.
So wait a minute. Are you saying that John and Donella are kind of weak on this?
Yes, they do not understand what's going on the ground, because if they lived in Ferguson, Missouri, I guarantee you they would have a different
I lived in Brooklyn, New York.
I said Ferguson, Ferguson, Missouri.
I
is what
experienced
I said.
Yusef Hawkins. I experienced Ibrahim Louima. I experienced all of those events that happened in New York.
And
I
you did
lived
nothing.
through it.
What did you do?
They rioted on the Brooklyn
I
Bridge.
was angry. The same thing that Ersan.
But
I
what
was
did you
angry.
do?
I was outraged.
Did you organize?
I went into the classrooms and taught the
what
children.
did you do?
So I taught the
John,
children, and I'm
what should we
proud
do?
of what I did.
What should we do?
What we should do in Ferguson is that Ferguson is 70% black. Ferguson can take the entire system over. The mayor's office, the city council, the school system, the police department. That's what we could do.
It is so easy for people to say what somebody else can do when you all have not walked in their shoes.
Are they not 70% black? Are they not?
Excuse me. Those people have been voting, just like I said before I went. They have been voting. They have been disenfranchised. Their votes have not counted, and they have given up hope.
So they've been stealing votes.
Yes, they have.
Okay,
So that's a case of election fraud.
So come on now.
I mean, that's a case of
This
election
is how
fraud.
oppressed these people have been.
Who they been
The
voting
guy
for?
who shot Darren Wilson, his uncle is the mayor. So it's strategic what has been going on in Ferguson.
You mean the guy who shot Michael Brown?
Yes.
We have got to stop being reactionaries. We have got to stop getting angry every time an injustice occurs, and we've got to be proactive. I don't condone destroying anybody's business because they're not black-owned. I don't condone being angry and marching in the streets for no reason. We need to have some tactics.
No reason.
I
don't get that. No, we need to be angry.
Wait a minute. She said if you shoot Michael Brown in the head 10 times, don't get angry.
No, that is not what I said. That is not what I said. That's not what I said. No.
You said we need not be angry.
Go ahead, Reverend Coates.
We need to get angry, and we need to do something as it relates to our anger. My only point with Earth is that we have to be responsible in our actions so that we don't end up getting killed in mass.
I agree.
Okay, hold on. Wait a minute. Earth, outside educators, was that true?
Yes, outside agitators were definitely true.
Now, I heard that at some point, some of those agitators ran back to the police department.
They ran straight to the police department.
Tell me about that.
When the crowd chased off the outside agitators, the agitators ran straight to the Ferguson Police Department.
Meaning what?
Meaning that the police also admitted that the boots that the agitators wore were their boots.
Wow.
Yeah, because they wanted to kill. They wanted to shoot. They wanted to shoot the people. They wanted a reason to shoot the people.
To do that. So if they're looking for a reason and they had outside agitators,
they didn't get a reason.
Why would we all be in the streets and make it happen so that another tragedy can occur? We need to be behind the scenes, and we need to be strategic and proactive.
They are
not running out in the streets,
Hold on, Donella. Go ahead,
They are strategic and they are proactive. And when you all see what these people are on the ground doing, I guarantee you, you will no longer say that they have to get organized. We are organized, we are activated, and we are ready. Activate your city.
So what are you saying?
I'm saying
she said, wait a minute, Reverend Coach. She's saying they were activated, they were involved, the young people were organized. Why are you condemning them, Reverend Coach?
I'm saying they're not activated, they're not organized, and this is why. This is why. Hopefully that's taking place now. But if it's the case that they've been voting and they've been experiencing election fraud and their votes aren't counting, that means they haven't done with their organization what they should have. They're 70% of the population.
They didn't have an organization until this.
And I think that's Reverend Coates' point.
That's what I'm saying.
So now they are organized, and they're not just organized in Ferguson. What y'all don't understand is this is a national movement. When we were in Ferguson marching, the march that they were having in Washington was twice as big.
I tell you what, stay right there. Wow. Woo. Black grandmothers raising their children's children. Up next on Khari, free at last on Bounce23 TV. Welcome back to Khari, free at last on Bounce23 TV. I'm Khari Enaharo. Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host Jallow, the Reverend John Coates, and Donella Martin-Braddix. In our third segment, African Americans are quietly suffering from an epidemic of drug addiction. This has led to high rates of mental illness and massive incarceration, leaving black babies without parents and grandmothers raising their children's children. Now, I say grandmothers because that's who's probably doing most of the raising. Reverend Coates, you deal with this all the time. Donella, you're seeing it. Earth, you're seeing it. Reverend, let's start with you. What's going on? Why are grandmothers raising their children's children?
Because their parents are not responsible parents. They had the babies generally at young ages.
Not all of them.
Well, not all of them, but many have.
What percentage?
Many have. I would say as many as 65% had the children before they were 18 years old, and the parents had the responsibility of the grandparents actually had the responsibility of raising them. In some cases, even the great-grandparents had responsibilities because their parents generally had children at an early age as well. So it's an issue as to who's responsible and who has the money to actually raise the child.
So you flood the
in a secure
community with
environment.
drugs, crack cocaine, you flood it with drugs, and then that knocks your brain out, obviously. So we have high degrees of mental illness, and yet you have babies, and yet these babies are out there raising themselves until the grandmothers, in most cases, go get some. So you got grandmothers raising their children's children, and now Reverend Coates saying their children's children.
Right.
What's going on here?
Well, you know, these grandmothers and these great-grandmothers are exhausted. And the thing about it is we're not putting out the support and the statistics that need to be put out there to let us know that there is a crisis going on in our families. And it's not just
what's the crisis?
Well, you know, it's not just the crack epidemic, which has contributed to it. It's also recreational drug use, particularly marijuana, which when a young person who is smoking
wait a minute. They're getting ready to make marijuana legal.
But the thing about it is, if we look at the statistics of drug-induced psychosis that occurs as a result...
What are we seeing?
We're seeing legions of young black males and black women who are in mental institutions, who are suffering from bipolar disorder and all sorts of other...
You know what she just said?
Brought on by
she
this
said
drug
smoking
use.
marijuana... oh, Lord.
I was listening and laughing.
She said smoking marijuana makes you crazy. Is that true?
That's not true. I think it's a little bit more of a harsher drug. Crack, maybe heroin, and maybe pills. You have
She
ecstasy,
said
you
legions.
have mollies, you have all kinds of things. And I don't think that marijuana is turning folks the way that these other PCP and all of these other things are.
Absolutely it is.
What's your stats on that?
So here you go. These
are
are the statistics that are not being promoted.
Well,
this
then,
is why
where
we're
are they?
talking about it now. Have you ever heard of
Let's see the pupil
drug-induced
of your eyes.
schizophrenia? Do you know that the mental wards are filled with young black males who have drug-induced schizophrenia as a result of marijuana use?
I have
And
not
this is
heard
what's
that. I
being
haven't
talked
seen a
about.
study about that. I have not read that anywhere. Now, if you tell me if it's a drug-induced Molly or what's the other one, ecstasy or something like that, I might be able to go along with that.
What is in the marijuana that our children are smoking?
I know way too many people who partake in marijuana who do not have
crazy.
no, who are not in psychosis, who are not in the mental ward.
But
that's not true. That's ludicrous.
Reverend Coates, how do we... It's ludicrous.
It's ludicrous.
Sound like Mike Tyson. It's ludicrous.
That's ludicrous. That's ludicrous.
That's a marijuana word.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
How do we address this, Reverend Coates?
Well, first we address it by being responsible parents. We have to make sure that we understand that we should not have children when we cannot afford
So no
them.
children until 30.
Mentally
Wait a minute,
ready.
no children until 30?
No children until you're married.
Okay, I like it. I like
no
that.
children until you're married.
I like
no
it.
children until you have a job and
Yes.
you're able to take care of
Yes.
yourself.
Dr.
and
Francis
children.
Cress Welsing, who is an eminent psychiatrist, says that black people shouldn't have children until they're 35.
Right.
Because under oppression, we're not mature.
Yes. Right.
And she's exactly right.
I
agree.
Look at some of our 25-year-olds. They act like 12-year-olds.
Absolutely.
Because they're smoking marijuana.
Oh, gosh.
Many of them start smoking when
Freezes
they're 13.
their emotions.
They start
Lord.
smoking when they're 13, 14 years old. They go to the corner store. They don't only get the cigarette papers that we allow to be sold in our stores where there's no tobacco
what effect does
inside
that
of
have
those.
on your
Because
development?
It has an effect on the brain. It slows
Absolutely.
it slows
because the
the
mind of the young person is not developed until it's 24,
Wait a minute, what
so
was
I
you saying,
wouldn't
Reverend Coates?
recommend that.
Wait.
Now she's arguing my point.
Now she's arguing.
No, I'm not arguing, but yeah, that was a good one.
Old Jallow just said that the mind of an adolescent
Absolutely.
isn't fully developed.
Right.
So then you have a developing mind,
Yes.
a developing
Yep.
brain
Yes.
that's smoking an illegal substance that's
Absolutely.
slowing down the process.
And it's
then
dangerous.
they get addicted to that substance that they continue to smoke.
And then it leads them into mental illness?
Absolutely,
And
yes. I
don't know about
additional
that part.
drug
Yes,
use.
yes. I don't know
about
Into
that either.
additional
Yes.
drug use, which then causes
So what they do is chase the habit. They chase the habit and forget about everything else. And then, wait a minute, hold on. And then the babies are left, and then the grandparents or the or the great-grandparents have to swoop in there and save those children. And then they wind up raising them.
Or the children end up in foster care.
That's what I was going to bring up,
within
too,
the
foster
system.
care.
And that's a problem. So if illegal drug use like marijuana is a part of the problem, we need to put it down.
What about mass incarceration? What role does mass incarceration play?
Oh, my goodness. Mass incarceration is everything, because not only just men are subjected to it. Now with black women, since 1986.
800% increase.
Yes. So the thing about it is we've got to stop glamorizing marijuana and drug use and stop. We have it in our songs. We have it in our music, and we make it seem like it's harmless. It's not.
So you don't smoke marijuana?
Absolutely not.
And you don't smoke marijuana? Oh, well. Anyway.
And I don't smoke marijuana.
Okay. So therefore, what message do we need to send?
Be more responsible. I'm like John. Before you have children, you have to be responsible, number one.
What about
you
after you have children?
You have to be married.
Should you smoke marijuana and do drugs at all?
No. We're not even talking about that. I'm talking about being responsible to have the children so your parents and great-grandparents are not raising your children.
And you have to take the time to deal with the trauma and the mental illness that you're right. You have to take that time before you become a parent. It's essential.
It's essential to do what?
It's essential to get yourself together before you have a child.
Maybe we need to push this notion, no children until you're 35 years old. The deadly Ebola virus, natural or man-made? Up next on Khari, free at last on Bounce23 TV. Welcome back to Khari, free at last on Bounce23 TV. I'm Khari Enaharo. Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host Jallow, the Reverend John Coates, and Donella Martin-Braddix. In our final segment, years prior to the Ebola eruption, reporter John Rappaport says that Tulane University and Fort Detrick researchers were experimenting on people in Sierra Leone, the Republic of Guinea, and Liberia, the Ebola epicenter in West Africa. Why did those governments ask them to stop their activities and essentially leave the country? Wait a minute. Now, John Rappaport, who has this blog, and he's a heck of a researcher, you know who he is, he says that the bio-war chemical people were down in Africa many years before this Ebola outbreak comes out. Now, all of a sudden, they're cordoning off districts and cities. Air France says it's not going to fly to Africa, at least fly into West Africa. What are they going to do, cordon off the continent next?
Well, first of all, why you ask me first? Don't you know that there's scientists that are researching this disease that are dying en masse? Airplanes are falling out of the sky from researchers. Look, I don't know if
think there's a correlation there?
Maybe so.
It's real strange.
I don't know if it was developed in Fort Detrick, Maryland or not, but what I do know is that the cases of Ebola has doubled in 1 year.
Yeah.
In 1 year, and it has spread throughout West Africa.
At the same time that it spread in West Africa, all of the African leaders come over to meet with Obama for a summit. At the same time Africa's rising.
They make an announcement.
Wait a minute. At the same time Africa's rising, Ebola is rising. Do you think there's a correlation somewhere?
More than a correlation, because those African leaders are in the United States, and then an announcement about the massive Ebola pandemic that's breaking out is made as if it was a threat to those leaders that if you don't do what we want you to do, your country may be ravaged by this
some
disease.
of them didn't want the African leaders in the country. Now, this Ebola, this thing all of a sudden explodes on the scene. Do you think there's a conspiracy surrounding this?
Well, the funniest thing is that as soon as an American gets the virus, suddenly there's treatment and a cure. So what happened, you know...
Oh, you talking about ZMAP?
Yes.
And guess what? The company that makes it says, oh, goodness, we only made 5 or 6 doses. It'll be several months before we can make some more.
Ridiculous.
You know how many people are going to die? Black people in Africa are going to die, Earth?
You know, it's crazy. I've been researching the Ebola virus, and from my understanding and what I read, it's not something... It usually starts in the bush. You know, it's not something that starts in the middle of the village and then just spreads like that. And then then you got 3 different major, like you said, you know,
But
countries
Earth,
that
this
that
is
it's
just
happening.
conspiracy
Come on,
talk.
whatever.
There's nothing to
Come
this.
on.
My goodness.
Well,
all y'all want to do is make a conspiracy
Yes,
out of
I do.
something.
All I know is that 2 things are happening simultaneously. Is that American white people are being made afraid of urban black people. There's 3 things. There's a tie to terrorism, and now there's this horrible disease that's coming from Africa that we need to keep out of the U.S. borders.
So what are you saying, Reverend Coates?
Basically, it's fear of a black planet.
Huh?
And I think Public Enemy prophesied that 20 years ago.
What does the black planet mean? What does that mean?
Fear of blackness, fear of black people. We bring the crime, we bring the drugs, we bring the disease,
So you
we
saying
bring the
Ebola
death.
was man-made? Is that
You
what
know
you're saying? I'm asking.
This is what I'm saying, is that if it wasn't man-made, it's definitely controlled, it was definitely breeded.
Oh, that's just conspiracy talk. Come on.
You know.
Come
You
on,
know,
Earth Jallow. What do you believe?
I'm with Donella. I believe that it was
What, y'all
created.
agreeing?
I believe it was
Oh,
created.
this ain't gonna work.
I believe it was created.
All right,
That's
okay,
ridiculous.
thank you. Thanks to TalkTainmentRadio.com host Earth Jallow. Thanks to Reverend John Coates and Donella Martin-Braddix. And thank you for watching Khari Free at Last on Bounce23 TV.